here to talk about BIP 50, Zero Confirmation joining as like the first project in the Badger Annexe. So I think I'll just kind of start off by giving a little background on, I guess, myself, Zero Confirmation, the Annexe, etc. So first off, this is all very new, obviously. Badger itself is very new, just started in December, I guess is when it launched, December 3rd. So I guess we're just coming up on 4 months total in, and lots changed. Obviously, made a lot of progress. We've got a lot of different initiatives. One of the initiatives that we had been pushing on is the Annexe for a while, and the reason that we were pushing on getting that proposal out was that most of what we work on now even is partnerships. Most of the products we put out, you looked at, the urine vaults that we have coming up. We have Clause with UMA. We have IBBTC with DeFi Dollar. Pretty much everything we do is partnering with different projects. And there's a lot of great projects in this space. And, a lot of them are in different stages of development. So some of them are, like Curve and Uniswap and Aave and Compound that have been around for a long time and are very, very well respected and trusted, and you feel pretty confident they work. And some of the, other ones are newer. So, like we were talking to, Alchemix seems like something that would be a cool project we could work with, but, they're pretty new. But there's also a lot of projects that maybe haven't even launched yet, or have launched, but maybe just haven't gotten up to scale, that need some help to do so, and could be great potential partners for Badger. And we at Badger have built some infrastructure for launching tokens and DAO and governance infrastructure and things like that. And really the angle with the Annexe was like, hey, if we're finding projects that seem like they would be a good fit for us to work with and can bring value to Badger, let's work with them and help them get over the hump from whatever stage they are in. So are they, just starting out and need, a community and more bodies and, an audit or some funds to hire a few folks to get launched? Those are things that we can, help provide. And coming out of that, hopefully the idea would be that it would be something that enhances Badger's products, enhances the use of the Badger assets, and overall just brings value to Badger DAO and to the Badger community. So that's the idea with the Annexe. And then I guess I'll give a quick overview of Zero Confirmation. So obviously this is a little bit of a, with BIP 50, it's a bit of a different angle than we might have with the usual, future Badger Annexe proposals, given that, the people that are building the target project are actually already part of Badger. So I guess the brief overview of the post is, Zero Confirmation joins Badger Annexe. Zero Confirmation to this point is mostly myself, Mitch, and Flex. Mitch started working with Zero Confirmation back in the summer, and then myself and Flex have been working on it really for, I guess, a little over a year now from when we first kicked off. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the right angle. I guess I'll give a quick rundown of what Zero Confirmation is. I assume most people have read the BIP, but basically the idea was very simple to start. Was, hey, can we, started with a couple people that were, in the Ren community and loved, what Ren was doing, but saw that there was limits in that you still had to wait, an hour to get your Bitcoin to do anything with it in DeFi. And being people that are familiar with DeFi and like using things in DeFi, that's just a much worse user experience than we're used to. So it was spun up saying, hey, can we figure out a way to allow people to use their Bitcoin in DeFi in as few confirmations as possible, ideally 0. So I was the main kind of product lead. Flex was the main developer, and really kind of bootstrapped it to get it going, and built out a structure where we're able to actually do zero confirmation trades and other actions on Ethereum with Bitcoin. Roughly, the structure is that you initiate an action by signing a message on Ethereum and then trigger a Bitcoin payment to an address that we generate through RenVM. And then once that transaction is generated and sent, there are keepers that monitor for those requests and for those transactions, and will actually take a loan out from a RenBTC liquidity pool, do whatever action you proposed, and then hold the resulting asset while your Bitcoin transaction clears. So it uses a dynamic escrow we call borrow proxies. So basically, it's like short-term 1-hour loans. The initial name for the project was Confirmation as a Service. That might be, the easier kind of analog for it when you kind of think about it. So, we're basically pre-confirming your transaction, and then the way that we're able to handle, possible front running or replaced by fee attacks is we have the assets in the escrow. So the benefit to the user is that you're not waiting to do the thing you want to do. So you're not, exposing yourself to price changes that might occur over that 1 hour, or maybe you just want to go ahead and, execute the transaction and move on with your life because you just don't want to sit there and wait and see if your Bitcoin clears, then come back and do the thing. If it's valuable enough to you to pay the gas to do that and use zero confirmation and pay the fee that is charged by the liquidity pool and the keeper, you can do that. So built that over the year, and like I said, very, very just kind of bootstrapped. We're all kind of working on other things on the side. Well, that was probably more of our side project for all of us that were working on it. And then we launched on mainnet, public mainnet, in November. I guess it was November or early December. Yeah, I think it was November. With with some guards in place. So basically, it launched it as a proof of concept. And all you can do with it right now on mainnet.0xconfirmation.com is you can trade Bitcoin for DAI, and it uses Uniswap. So we intentionally made it very limited. And there's, I think, a 0.1 Bitcoin cap on how much you can trade, which, it costs a decent amount of gas to do the zero confirmation operations. So it's with that cap, it's not super useful, but we wanted to launch on mainnet and you kind of use that as our foothold to say, hey, look, we're live, it works. Let's go talk to other projects that might want to integrate, like Curve, SushiSwap. We talked to Zapper. And they're all very interested in it. But what we need and what zero confirmation needed is audit. We needed to work on kind of like our long-term plan for how we're going to scale the protocol. And it's kind of there's delicate balances that need to be managed with zero confirmation. There's a lot of kind of risk components to it that need to be managed. But in the end, the goal, where it will perform best is when it can do kind of high value transactions. And we think, things like people who are running, arbitrage strategies across chains can definitely benefit from using it. So that was the rough timeline. We got launched, and our plan was kind of to come back in the spring after talking to some people over the holidays, kind of chilling out for a little bit, to come back in the spring and launch 0CF DAO, where we would launch a token that would govern the protocol. We would use some funds that we had gotten from a Gitcoin grant earlier in the year to fund, a baseline audit, just to get like the nitty grittiest of audit, and then build out the community using 0CF DAO and an early contributor program and yada, 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 to kind of get the whole thing built out and live and at scale. So that was the plan. And then Mitch and I started contributing to Badger a little bit with the initial plan. I think both of us are just like, hey, we'll do the early contributor program. We'll kind of help them get live. Maybe we'll get some tokens. That'll be cool. And then Badger launched and needed a lot of help and grew very quickly. And we kind of fell into long-term roles there. So that kind of brings us to the present day, fast forward a couple months, we've been kind of had taken a step back from zero confirmation. And, the question was, all right, well, we have this thing we built, we wanted to get it live. What's kind of the next steps? And that's when we kind of started engaging with Chris and the rest of the core team and Cedar team to try to figure out, okay, how can we kind of balance this where we continue to contribute to Badger and help there, but also don't just, completely junk, zero confirmation. There's a lot of overlap with Badger as far as the goals, bringing Bitcoin to DeFi. Pretty obvious there. Zero confirmation isn't just for Bitcoin, but that's where it makes the most sense. Nothing else takes that long to confirm. And actually, even before Badger launched, had conversations with Chris about zero confirmation and Badger. So it seems like we had kind of similar goals. And we kind of left saying, okay, great, yeah, we'll kind of both do our things and we'll kind of see where things go and find where we can work together long term. I don't think either one of us knew or expected that Badger was going to get as big as it did, as quick as it did. So given, once we were able to take the time after getting through a lot of the Badger roadmap and starting to think about, okay, what do we do with zero confirmation? That's where we kind of settled on seeing if we could add it to the Annexe to kind of bring it under the Badger roadmap and to where we can find some more people to focus on it more directly, continue to contribute to it and help drive the direction of it and get it live and hopefully utilize it directly in the Badger app and have, both, the zero confirmation DAO be a stakeholder in Badger and for Badger to be a stakeholder in the zero confirmation DAO. So it's, I don't think you can really structure DAOs to be, subservient or, really below another. That's a very hard thing to do, but I think you can kind of entangle them through their treasury holdings and alignment. So that's kind of the high level. It's a lot, I guess. I'll take a break here and, I'll open it up for if anyone wants to ask any specific questions. There's a lot I didn't cover. It's been a long, year. So yeah, if anyone wants to, and if you don't feel comfortable speaking up, feel free to type it in the chat. I've got it open over here. If no one speaks up, then I'll just kind of start cranking through, I guess, some of the stuff from the forum. So yeah, any questions?
I mean, I think I talked about this a little bit in the forum, but my main question is where is about the people and the resources, right? Because from what I can tell, you guys, both you and Mitch are super core to everything Badger does, right? And you're involved in every piece of everything that we do, and you're already spread pretty thin, right? And that by no means should stop you from starting your own business, right? But I think that then the challenge for the DAO that maybe we need to think about, maybe outside this BIP, but that we do need to start thinking about is how do we get, more Jantos and Mitches on our core team so that while all these projects are off doing things, there's some people that are sitting there thinking about how it all integrates together and actually works.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. And, I think the big difference is that zero confirmation is live, right? The main core protocol is live. What needs to be built out, what we need is security. So we need audits. We need some more kind of research and thought into the risk management component, because right now it's pretty basic. It's functional, but it can definitely be more efficient. We need integrations. So an integration, obviously it's all DeFi, it's all open source, so we can light up a module with whoever we want. But we can light up a curve cross asset swap module, which we're very excited about. I think that's might be one of the killer apps of zero confirmation. But it doesn't make a huge difference unless Curve actually integrates it into their front end. So yeah, I think that's one component. If this is something that we had an idea now that we wanted to build, for sure, I totally agree with you. It's not something I'd want to undertake, and that's part of the reason that we're kind of doing it this way is we had been like I said, Mitch and I had largely stopped working on zero confirmation in any capacity for the past couple months. and we wanted to kind of get it moving again. Like what can we do? And the goal will be to use the early contributor campaign to hopefully bring in some people that can be pretty laser focused on zero confirmation. And then, we can be involved, but involved like the way I would see that, when we bring in other incubator projects, it's something I would like to be involved in working on. And definitely bringing on project management people is something I'm focused on right now, just to help build out the team, because where I've kind of fallen into is a lot of the high level, how these things kind of fit together, and haven't had much of a chance to be as hands-on with a lot of the pushing the projects forward. So I think it's definitely resources we need. And I'm hoping this is a different, good balance to get the thing live and get it integrated in Badger. And none of the Badger that's part of the deal is going directly to anyone that's getting paid by Badger right now. Like we'll still be getting an allocation of the zero confirmation tokens, but we're not getting anything from any of the Badger from that treasury. And the number, I think, is really to have that entanglement between the DAO, so that zero confirmation DAO has a stake in Badger as well. And obviously Badger is going to have a significant stake in zero confirmation. Yeah, it's all very new, but yeah, I'm happy to address any other concerns.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really cool. I think it's great. I would just really encourage you and Mitch to look for some I don't know, proteges or some people to kind of, because I think if you guys are really going to really take off zero confirmation and do well, right? It's going to need another Chris and another Jonto and another Mitch that are sleeping, 5 hours a night and putting their heart and soul into it. You'll both everybody will end up strong. Badger will end up strung out, and you guys will end up really strung out if we don't figure out how to backfill the resources.
Yeah, that's the other thing though that I guess I didn't touch on. I don't think it needs zero confirmation. I don't think needs a Chris, or necessarily a fully. I mean, it needs people that are thinking strategically with it. But zero confirmation is a middleware protocol. We don't, the goal is not to have lots of people coming to zero confirmation DAO and depositing all these funds and building up all this, coming to the zero confirmation app and depositing all these funds and having massive liquidity. The goal is volume through the platform. And the way that we're, have been thinking about the tokenomics of it is to incentivize volume and kickback to integrators. And hopefully people don't even really know that much that zero confirmation is working in the background. So it's, if we're not going and starting another farm, another farming site, it should be more, let's talk to, Curve, do a lot of testing in the background, and then, help them with how the, it's a unique user interface because you have these, you kind of have to bring in this time component where your trades are in a bit of a limbo state for a little bit, work with them on that. And then, it's then something that they're managing with their users. So yeah, I mean, I agree. If it was another, farming, let's make a big splash thing. Yeah, but I think we also talked extensively about the need for another token. I think as Mitch put in the forum, the reason we think it does need that is because there is more subtle risk management and a lot more control. There's going to be whitelists on whitelists for this thing to make sure that it runs smoothly, because you can't have illiquid tokens on it because there's different attack vectors to the protocol. So it definitely takes more nuanced control, and we want to have it open. We want to have a community own it, and that's not something where we want to start having. I don't think that would fit within Badger governance right now to start peppering the snapshots where we need to evaluate these different risk parameters, right? And to be honest, that's something that I was looking to bring someone on to do, even if we were to launch zero confirmation, even outside of Badger, even directly. If like, we'd gone the route of, okay, I was an early contributor, and then I just kind of like went away and then launched zero confirmation. Like, that's not my expertise. And I think it does need someone who is more full-time focusing on that stuff there.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm hearing is that you and Mitch have kind of already done your work. Need is actually resources that aren't necessarily your primary skills that you think the system and that you think do actually have the time to focus on this stuff without distracting from our other projects. Is that thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a good way to sum it up. And I'm definitely open to having more of a someone else kind of come in and take a lead position. Right? And actually, I didn't mention, but like a Frog can even attest to this. That like as we were building out, like myself and Mitch and Frog were all very active in getting the governance structure built out at at Badger. But like through December into like February, before we even had the inklings of moving to full time, I was telling them, I was like, yeah, like I had all these plans for zero confirmation DAO, and I'm basically getting a chance to like execute it and put things in place at Badger, like helping design the governance and things like that, and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't, and be very active in that. And then I was like, we'll get this up and running. And like we always just assumed it was going to be like other people running long term at Badger, and I was like, okay, this will be great. Like we can work with Badger and just like fork all this governance stuff, and we'll use that. We'll launch your confirmation DAO, and like maybe we'll include Badger in the airdrop or whatever, but we'll be like full time zero confirmation or whatever at that point. But then things kind of change. So yeah, as far as like the stuff that I focused on a lot, like I almost consider that done because it's like I built it using the ideas I had for zero confirmation already with Badger. Obviously with a lot of huge help from the Badger team and the Badger community. Like it's great to see all of it work in practice. So like that's stuff that I'm in. It's like, all right, well, that's kind of cool. It's done. Let's get a project manager to help. And then we already have basically a whole list of tasks we'll be releasing when it's ready for like the early contributor campaign to say, hey, let's get people in here to tackle these other things. But yeah, I mean, and we want to build out in the open. We want to build with the community. So hopefully it'll be a continuing discussion to make sure that we're allocating resources properly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, no, I just wanted to confirm, John, you mentioned, I can attest to that. Yeah, I've been watching zero confirmation since mid last year, and what they've built, if you read into what Ren's built and then read into the pain points of Ren, I'd say in terms of like applications that could catalyze Bitcoin on DeFi, zero confirmation is up there. It's creating an entirely new I guess middleware Lego that doesn't exist and doesn't have anything comparable right now. So in terms of the value add, I think it's definitely there. Tritium, I totally get your concerns, and that some of those concerns you mentioned were things that John, Mitch, and I discussed for hours over the past several weeks. And I think that from how John has laid it out on the BIP, there's a clearly outlined path for how we can make sure that there is no competing interests, and that the plan for onboarding new folks to take on a lot of the roles that John and Mitch would have done is pretty clearly laid out. I guess the only part of the BIP that I had any comments on, which I left on the forum, was that if there's going to be operational costs for zero confirmation, especially as they ramp up, I think it would make sense to give an allocation. And I had written 50% in USDC, and then given that, determine what the right vesting would be based on community feedback. So maybe, I'm not sure if we have an agenda in terms of what you want to go over, John, but I'm hoping we can get to that at some point in this call as well.
Yeah, I don't think we have a clear agenda from here forward, so we can definitely bump to that route. And it begs the question of, how these things actually get like finalized, right, and executed. So yeah, I think this quote unquote negotiation was largely me negotiating with myself and then getting feedback from kind of the different people on the team, different people on the different teams. So I think, yeah, maybe what would make sense if the BIP passes, and I think we're learning now about how to present these things, especially even just after the Opera strategic partnership thing. Like, it's a lot of details and nuance to all these things. I think, definitely open to a USDC allocation, and maybe what we can do in the BIP is provide so I'm trying to think, okay, what makes sense for the community to vote on, and then I think once we are finally looking at, okay, hey, we need to light up these transactions and do these things, we that's when you kind of figure out, okay, the super nitty gritty details. I think definitely open to USDC, and maybe as far as like the actual BIP is concerned, is like improving maybe like a range and then what we can do as we, I guess, finalize the things is just, like I said, I've already got kind of the roadmap that I had built out back in the spring. And we'll probably just look at that, see what things will actually cost money. And then we can have that and say, hey, look, this is what we think the operational cost will be, in very back of the napkin, quick stuff for the next 6 months. And then make sure like at least that amount is in USDC. Like I said, I think we want a large, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess, if we had to ballpark a percent, I think it's something that the community should probably get some insight into prior to approval and disbursement. So I had written 50%. If that's, I'm not sure what you're thinking in terms of the allocation. And then I think it maybe in terms of process for governance, like what we should do is, before posting it on Snapshot, editing the original post and then writing a note of the edit and writing like, due to community feedback, we edited XYZ, and then post it to Snapshot.
Yeah, that works for me. And I think, somewhere in that 25 to 50% range, and we could even put it as if you want to tighten it up, like a 30 to 50 in the BIP, or if we want to do the final details there. I think that makes sense. I think one of the questions is, okay, if we're going to use some of these assets, the idea is to build out, use the early contributor campaign to build out more of a team, which is, what happened with Badger, right? Like, you and me and Mitch were all early contributors, and then like we stuck around because we were like, hey, this is great. And the idea is to kind of do that with zero confirmation, and with the zero confirmation tokens. But obviously it's like, do we want to make it, if we were to distribute any assets to people we want to incentivize to come in and work on the project, obviously using USDC for that is great. I would also contend that giving some people some Badger would be good, but maybe that we only distribute vested Badger to those folks, because you want to align them with Badger as well, right? People defend their bags, so give them bags. But yeah, maybe the trade-off there is that if we're distributing any Badger to folks, it's vested Badger, and we figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And if how we launch your programs go, like, I don't think we'll run into too much issue as it comes to like incentivizers and really creating a community immediately aligned to Badger. Especially excited about that.
Yeah, and I think it's breaking down, okay, what do we want to have available, for these like Badger holders, and Badger DAO are going to have a large stake in zero confirmation DAO, and then seeding the treasury with some assets just gives it some inherent value, and then having locked up Badger in its treasury makes it so that hopefully the DAO continues down the line to be very supportive of Badger. So I think breaking down what percentage is that, like, hey, let's align the two DAOs. versus, hey, here's operational costs and people incentives. We can do that a little bit, but I think, the range you posted is fine. I don't think me or any of the other zero confirmation folks would have any like I said, it's we're negotiating with ourselves a bit, so I think it's reasonable. Whatever the community seems to make seems to make sense, and just keep in mind too, like this is the first time we're doing this, and it'll probably be used somewhat as a template for going forward. It'll be a little different because not expecting it to be core contributors always as part of the Annexe stuff, but just for everyone, that's part of why this has taken a while, and so the post is so long, but.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, I think you make me feel way better about this, Bip, and I probably said it a bunch of times, is if you guys both kind of agreed to, in going through this, to also kind of like put some real time into looking to hire another John Toe and another Mitch, right? And whether that's another John Toe and another Mitch that ends up working on zero confirmation so you can focus on Badger, or whether that's, another really good front-end dev and another really good kind of big picture strategy guy that can stick with Badger while, zero confirmation grows and you guys decide you want to focus on that. But I just don't want to see us I don't want to see you, I don't want to see anybody in a situation in like 3 or 6 months where both of these things are like blowing up and then it's all kind of like falling on the two of you, right? And that's starting to become like a...
Yeah, and I will tell you right now, I am currently talking to one person who, this is even independent of zero confirmation, that to come on as more of a project manager with Badger, from the product side, and then and I think that role can kind of evolve into that. You just got to get in the mix and get all that stuff figured out, and it's someone who's very familiar with DeFi, and then like I said, my top hire is a project manager type for zero confirmation, but ideally it's someone who, they have to understand both the financial side of things and the DeFi side of things. So that was, it's hard to put too much in the BIP, but that was project manager was top of the list, and that's why we have a pretty healthy early contributor percentage to hopefully find a good person that can kind of be a great lead on that. Because no one knew who the hell I was until I started working a lot with Badger, right? Cool. Yeah, thank you for your questions, Tritium. I'm glad we were able to get you over the hump. Cool. Anyone else have any other questions?
I guess only if other people don't. I have one last follow-up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess one thing. I guess we can work this out offline as well. I just wanted to bring it up on the AMA in case others wanted to chime in. We'll figure out between 30-50% USDC what makes sense. In terms of vesting, I think right now you have it 50-50, 50 upfront, 50 in a year. I think it would make sense to not have USDC locked up because the whole point is for you guys to be able to use it. So I guess figuring out what the vesting on the remainder would be as it relates to deal terms being finalized.
Yeah, and what vesting means is it unlocks over a year or unlocks after a year. Similar with the zero confirmation token going into Badger. I think we can definitely settle on the specifics of that. Yeah, totally open to whatever makes the most sense there.
How are people going to get vetted for those who are like joining in for the call to action kind of thing, right? Like if we do want some more contributors and stuff, how do we identify what's a good candidate for these roles?
Yeah, I put together a quick form just to get organized for the early contributor. So I think it's in one of the comments down at the bottom, one of the replies, and there'll be probably the week after next, will be when we'll start getting a little more information out there about what the specific needs are. Probably open up a Discord once we kind of find. I think we've got a couple people already lined up that can do more like the moderator roles. Get some people in there. Like I said, it's not a hype protocol. It's a middleware. So we're not looking to get like, it's not like, hey, let's get the Discord to 6,000 people. And I think, largely we'll do some little vetting of just whoever's interested, but it's going to come down to, probably if there's, important decisions that need to be made, we can line up some calls, or just light up the Zero Confirmation forum even, and see who is providing good value, and kind of go from there. So it's not, you can't really evaluate just based on like what someone's presented to you, but I think that's how we kind of all ended up with Badger. Is we just kind of started speaking up and kind of taking ownership of things, and like I said, like before actually going like long-term contributor, I built out a fairly extensive list of things that we need to I thought we needed to do before getting Zero Confirmation live, and we'll probably be posting that and seeing who wants to kind of dive in and start tackling some of those things. And some of that will be put together like a proper risk model that is scalable, that we can use across different platforms when we're evaluating which assets and protocols we want to integrate. Some of that will be doing some finesse on the tokenomics for, we don't need to incentivize TVL, we need to incentivize volume. So I think it's almost more like a curve type model where you can use the token to, we would, I think, look to have the token kick back to integrators. So if you're a curve or a zapper or a sushi swap, and you have Zero Confirmation embedded in your front end, and we would kick back based on volume sent through the protocol. So things like that, and getting people that are interested in building out, putting together proposals, and if it works, and then we kind of run with that. So I think that's kind of go with the Badger approach. It'll be a little loose. Like, we don't have a hard set launch date, and that's part of this too. Like, I'm not gonna I'm not a stay up till 3 a.m. to get stuff out guy. I'm I get everything we need to done, and we want to do it right, and hopefully we can bring good people that can help us crank it out. So I know it's not a clear. So TLDR, there's a form, Google form, if you're interested. That's just to help us stay organized. Keep an eye out whether we throw a channel in the Badger Discord, or we just light up a new server with a couple channels. We'll put it out there, and then there'll be a follow-up post about kind of the road ahead, and the tasks needed, and we'll just kind of combine all those together and hopefully find some people to kind of run, help coordinate, and we'll be kind of off to the races and figure out from there. Cool. Anything else? I'm trying to think if there are any other topics I wanted to touch on. I'll scroll through the forum real quick too and see if there's anything. Yeah, I mean, I think that those were the main things I wanted to hit. We're pretty pumped about getting Zero Confirmation moving again. It's been on the shelf for a bit. We've had a little bit of there was like one Zero Confirmation community Telegram that had been pretty quiet for a little while. So if anyone in there is in here, thanks for holding on and being patient and not badgering us with wins. And we're, like I said, keep an eye out for kind of the early contributor intake form. Any posted Discord, any posted updates. We'll have some stuff coming out there. Like I said, community moderators, project managers, developers of all types. I don't think we need a huge team right out of the gate, and we'll be able to leverage some of the Badger resources, which will be great, given that we won't have to kind of come up with our own token distribution mechanisms and all that. That stuff's great and good to go. We just got to make some decisions around launch, and then I guess one thing I do want to touch on is the stake drop, which is something I was excited about building out, and this is something I'm building out for I'd be wanting to build out with Badger anyway. Okay, we're going to have these projects that are going to launch out of Badger. We're going to have, new tokens available for our community. But it's my angle. I think that, we want to reward, what does Badger bring to the party when we're trying to bring, a protocol or a project under our wing in the Annexe? We bring assets and connections and, different, utilities, but the big thing is we bring a community, and we want, when we bring someone on the Annexe, we want the community to help that project. And if it's just, okay, we've got 3 or 4 projects that are in the Annexe that we're kind of working with, how do people in the community decide which one they want to put effort into, which one do they care about, how do they specifically help? So I think it's more helpful if you have 5 or 10 community members in Badger that are like, oh, this, 0xConfirmation or whatever other project is like super cool, let me go work on that, versus like, 1,000 people that kind of partially care. So the stake drop, working on the mechanics for it, will be a way for you to kind of indicate your expressed interest in one of the projects that's being worked on. And TBD exactly how this works, but there'll have to be some level of opportunity cost given up, whether it's locking up your Badger for a longer period of time, whether it's having to use unstaked Badger, or whether even if it's just using your B Badger, but you're giving up not being able to use it as collateral somewhere or something else. And then you're able to kind of stake that towards a one of the projects that's being incubated, or any other kind of initiatives that we're doing that might distribute assets, and you can kind of choose, okay, where do you want to distribute your things?
John, I just a thought on that, right? But it seems like this is around moving Bitcoin onto other chains. Think, and I could be wrong about this, but like most of the Badger community that we have now are like pretty ETH native, and they're not really thinking about Bitcoin all that much, right? Come to mind that I think really could be actually all these Ren guys that didn't get their first air. So maybe like airdropping some of your token out on the original Badger airdrop because they were too like technically involved with the Ren bridge would be like perfect people, and particularly if they're still in Badger and they stayed in the project. It's like once this bridge is up, users of the bridge, and particularly like wallets that are like hammering that and are like transacting through that a lot, right? Like these are, instead of kind of just asking people, like there you can really start to find the people understand this stuff and would care about it, in communities where they can like talk about it and push it out.
Yeah, totally. And so the breakdown in the article, there's basically the 10% of tokens will be what we just call like the ecosystem airdrop, and that'll just be like your regular airdrop, which is the 0xConfirmation community and /team chooses where that goes. And yeah, the Badger bridge would probably be a great thing to reward people for having used, because that's yay Ren VM.
Yeah, well, and also
yeah.
Frog will tell you about this. There's a bunch of these Ren guys that like didn't.
Yeah, no, I'm a Ren guy, man. I'm aware.
So those guys, I think, are like the best air, and they're waiting for something, right? They're kind of like, hey, I got screwed, so that'll make them happy, and like I can't think of a better group of people to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's high. So go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, I definitely agree, but maybe let's not do any leaks on or speculations on what might get airdropped.
Sorry.
No, all good. And yeah, I think the takeaway is, yeah, that totally there's 10% that's ecosystem airdrop. That'll be however we want to shake it out. And yeah, that'll be targeting who do we think would be the best users to bring into this type of project. And those people may or may not fall in that category. Yeah, once the community lights up, we'll kind of figure that out. And then the 10% is going to, 10% is obviously going to Badger DAO Treasury, and then another 10% is going to be dropped directly to Badger holders. And that's what I was talking about with the stake drop. We might do, and we'll figure out what the breakdown is, but just to make it easy, you could say, okay, 50% is just airdrop to all Badger holders based on, similar to like the dig drop or however we want to do it, right? Whatever criteria we want to use, and it's just even based on data. But you could then take the other 50% and say, okay, this is for the stake drop, where if you're especially interested in zero confirmation, you take your Badger or dig or however we want to do it, and you go over here and you stake it to zero confirmation, and it means you can't use it for other things, or maybe it's locked up for a longer period of time or something. You have to give up something, right? You have to make the decision to say, hey, I think this is more valuable than what I could do elsewhere with my Badger. And then 50% of that 10% that goes to Badger holders could then just be split up amongst those people, right?
Yeah,
so
what about, just to throw this out there, but like we're on BSC now, and they've got all these like syrup pools, right, where you can basically and then get other tokens like emitted slowly over time. And in general, I mean, maybe this is a good first step for it, but maybe having like a set of places where you can, it's not like you get some big drop, but or the more of these tokens you're getting, that actually seems like kind of an interesting concept. And it creates a whole lot. It eventually, like, I can stake this, 6 or 7 different coins and be involved in these projects. And it's kind of a portal into everything Bitcoin. And there's a way I can get engaged without having to like go buy tokens.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to look at more into the serve thing. I'm not super familiar with how it's structured, because the question has been, when I've been thinking about, like, I've talked to like Chris and other people internally about how the stake drop could work. And one thing is like, oh, you just do either lock up your Badger or just in general like accrue quote unquote Badger points or something that you can then use for things. And even just having a something that is just drips out some rando ERC20 that you stake your Badger to, and then that when we do the launch, like that ERC20 that you're accruing through that drip is claimable for some portion of your confirmation token or something. Because there's a time component to it. We don't know exactly when it's going to launch, so it's hard to say like, okay, we're going to do this 1-to-1 or anything like that. But you can make it all proportional.
I love it. Tritium went from, hey, we got to cut their pay, to, hey, who should we airdrop? Funny.
I've just been working in startups my whole life, right? And the thing that has killed every is talent crunch. So like when I start to see it happening, I get real like, hey, got all these ideas, but like, are there people coming with them? And if not, like, you're gonna just like create a situation where we're so scattered that we can't do anything. And so it's just, I've been through it so many times, but it sounds like you guys are thinking about it, and so then that's cool.
Yeah, appreciate it. And there's trust involved here. It's all DAO stuff, but it is trust, and we're just trying to do things in the open, and nothing's cut and dry, and we're just trying to be as open with communities as possible as we go along. And if things can always change in a few months, and we'll try to be open and clear with everything about it at that point too. Also,
exactly. And I think Tritium would be a good person to keep us all accountable on something like that, as well as we continue progressing. And something I personally would like to see, and not to sound like a when moon boy, but like coming up with, once we have like the initial people come in, early contributors of zero confirmation, it would be good to get some sort of high level, at least quarterly roadmap of the deployment plan for institutionalizing zero confirmation and really making it a reality across DeFi.
Yeah, totally. I think April, hopefully focus on getting that roadmap lined up, track some people down, and then, have more of a strategic, that's, definitely be trying to leverage other folks from the Badger team as well. It's, probably better at that stuff even than myself to, hey, how can we even, by using Badger, being part of Badger, line this up and get some rough dates and things put together we can shoot for. Because like I said, it's live, it's functioning, it's ready to be audited. It's just what do we feel we need in place before kind of making that jump?
Yeah, I'd say let's get it into QuantStamp's hands ASAP.
Yeah, and I mean we actually had already talked to them before getting involved with, like, that was back in like January or whatever, and they gave us a quote that we didn't have the money to pay for at the time. But yeah, it was close. We were kind of negotiating with them on like, hey, what can you do with this if not a full audit? But things are obviously, that's one of the huge benefits of with Badger is being able to kind of get audit at scale. With wholesale pricing kind of. Sweet. Cool. I think we're kind of coming to the end here. So unless there are any other questions, I guess we'll wrap up. Like I said, there'll be more info coming, and hopefully clear. There'll be, I guess, the next big pieces of info will be kind of the roadmap, and then first will be kind of more hardline deal details, like, okay, update the BIP with specifics after we kind of shake things out with the core team a bit, and then if that's all good, light up the snapshot, and then once that clears, we'll figure out, okay, actual, we can't really do a lot of this stuff until 0CF DAO launches anyway, right? Like, there's nowhere to really hold this. We'll figure out what we're doing asset wise there. I think it's all fine. Not pushing for anything, and then coming out, in the next, probably a week after next, we'll be dropping more info on roadmap. So excited to do all that and work with everybody.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Will, for setting it up. Appreciate it.
Of course. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.